Anand here.
So thanks everyone for joining in, and that's my hook slide. You'll know what a hook slide means. I'm trying to draw your attention to this talk because if I just started off saying how to make an effective presentation, a lot of y'all would have only heard what was expected, and that sometimes doesn't help to attention. Most importantly, as a surgeon, why do you need to know how to make a good presentation, right? But if you think about it, just go through your head about the guys who you consider as the top surgeons in the community, and most of them are actually good presenters, and you only know that, or your only opinion about them being good is the fact that they make very good presentations. You've not seen most of them operate, and hence your presentation in your future life is going to become your introduction world. And right early, you should know how to make your presentation a standard world-class presentation. Your aims of your talk should be to provide relevant information, which is up-to-date and evidence-based. This includes your papers. You've got to motivate the audience to learn, because it's impossible for you to give all the information in the 6 minutes that you've been given. But if you can stimulate the audience to go back and read and delve in that topic, life can be very, very good for them. You've got to contribute to learn. The focus is not on you. The focus is on the audience. So remember that this is the deep knowledge that whenever you're preparing a talk, try to dissociate yourself from the talk. Think about you as a delegate who's listening, and how is that person going to draw the maximum information out of this talk. Because in the talks that are memorable, or when the delegate goes out happy, it's when the talk has actually given him what he wants, rather than the speaker actually presenting what he wanted to present. And this is a bit of deep understanding, but if you keep that attitude in mind, it gets easier and easier to make the talk. So let's break it down. What's on the menu for the next 20 minutes? You're going to plan the content and the presentation scheme, PowerPoint logistics, and then stage etiquette. So about planning your content. Now, when you're given a topic, you got to start thinking about it way beforehand, and think about what is the audience that you're going to talk to. For example, you're going to be talking to specialists. All of them are orthopedic surgeons of various seniority. So your talk has to be raised to that level. You can't be talking basic stuff with them. But another with the same title could be to medical students. It could be to orthopedic PGs. It could be to nurses, or it could be to Rotary Club. So you will have to modify your talk to requirement. The same talk has to be rounded off differently. You got to identify your message. So every talk or every paper should have one key message. And this is something you got to think about. You can't be giving away 25 different informative pieces at the end of the talk. There should be one or two key messages, and then should be built backwards after your conclusion is made. So it's sometimes a good idea once the topic is set to make your concluding slide, make the conclusion, and then build a top backwards the talk. So everything that you build in your talk is directed towards that conclusion, doesn't go haywire, and that's what grasps the audience attention, right? Like I said, think about it early. Of course, now WIROC is a week away. Whenever the a topic is given to you in the future, you start processing it in your head. Don't delay that, because you get bits and pieces of ideas and information that you got to hang on. Put them down in my notepad on the phone, because different ideas of presentation, different things that you want to include in the talk, come in early. Remember that the best speakers would always give priority time to prepare their presentation. So I've taken this particular presentation maybe about 70 or 80 times, but even then, this morning, as soon as I was back home, I rehearsed this presentation. I even rehearsed this when I was asked to speak about this. So it for granted, because no good speaker takes their presentation for granted. Now start with the hook. Like I said, the hook is what draws in. So this is a scientific fact that the maximum attention span of your audience is in the first 2 or 3 or 4 slides at best. And think about it yourself. Comes on stage and starts saying something very boring, you instantly switch off, because this is a part of 25 talks in the day, right? How can your talk hold attention compared to the other 25 talks? So you really want to make the start very catchy. For example, if my topic is adolescent, natural history of adolescent spondylolisthesis, And imagine if my first slide, which commonly, people, make the mistake of making, if my first slide says important to know the natural history of adolescent spondylolisthesis as it helps us in planning management. This is a very boring entry. And as soon as, you think about it, if this was a first slide of a talk in a, day-long session at WIROC, you would instantly say, okay, I'm taking a break and I'll finish my messages, right? So that if I started the same topic like this, I put up a case which is relevant to everyone. Orthopedic surgeons specifically love X-rays and MRIs, and they love the controversy, involving management of different cases. So if you put up a case like this, and I said this lady has, or this girl has blah blah blah, when she comes to the clinic, these are all the questions that come to mind. And to answer these questions, it's important for me to know the natural history, and it's important for all of you to know what you've effectively done. And you'll hear me saying this again: is you've made your problem as their problem. What you're trying to speak in the talk suddenly becomes relevant to each and every person in the audience, because this kind of a case is going to come to them, time and again. So even the most boring topic should be twisted in a way that is relevant to, to the speaker. And this was my hope, because, here there was not much to say. So I made a very, very controversial or a very bold statement. Most people would have, in the WIROC audience, would have like woken up and said, what is this? Is this a title slide or what? And I have caught their attention for those few seconds. What I make of it is up to me, but I've at least grabbed the attention of the audience. So start with the case, start by saying something very, very inflammatory or very, very controversial, but within the game. Normally starting with the case is safe. To be, to speak inflammatory, you've got to have that, that kind of a confidence around you. The introduction is the aim of the presentation, which has to be concise. So immediately after you start with the hook, you got to tell the people what you want to say and this lecture is supposed to say. And the way to think about this again is that you're a salesman. You're selling a proposition. It could be, the utility of a, of warfarin post-surgery in TKR, or it could be, whether this XYZ plate works better than the other. Ultimately, coming with your bags and selling your goods to the audience. And as a good salesman, you have to create a need for them to buy it, right? So introduction, like I said, makes your problem as their problem. So everyone suddenly identifies, oh, I think I need to listen to what he's saying, because what he's saying to, I get this problem time and again, and maybe this will have the solution to it. So make the talk relevant to the audience for them to hear. And this is important because this is often not the part of your base body. The way you sugarcoat it or you twist it to make it, more accessible to the audience is, is the trick that we're talking about here. The lecture content, again, is important not to cram in maximum information. So you've been given one topic, paper reads with one title. Everything you say should be directed to the title, and there should be nothing outlandish. You don't want to give the history of spondylolisthesis when it was first discovered. If your topic is, natural history or whatever you want to say, you don't want to say who first described spondylolisthesis, or it was a gynecologist, whatever. This blah information really puts the audience away from the focus. So you got to give, you have the opportunity to give 6 to 9 messages. I'm saying 6 to 7 new messages in a short 5 or 6 minute talk. So you don't want to give any extra messages. Think about which messages you want to give, of which the last 1 or 2 should be message and the other 2 should be sub messages, and revolve your talk around this. So everything that you say contributes to these messages, and stress and repeat the points again and again. So if you feel you have extra time, you can, repeat what you think you want to say again and again. Because attention span weans off within the first 3 or 4 minutes. Again, yourself how long you've really, caught how many speakers have caught your attention for the entire talk. You have a friend sitting next to you, you have some khana in your hand, messages beeping, you've got, patients in. So to hold attention, there are tricks that you want to use, and you don't want the audience to be, sleeping off, start your talk, because you'll then ramble on. And some of the tricks that we use are, of course, case examples, which is a great thing. Humor can go both ways. So unless it's a specific current non-sexual joke, you could still crack the joke, which is on the current scenario, which will immediately get people hooked. But it can go both ways. examples are a great way for people to connect, because if you have a slide which has got print material versus a slide with an X-ray, the slide with the X-ray is attention instantly. So that's how you can reconnect guys who were lost in the first 2 or 3 minutes. The other way, of course, is to involve the audience. So you go back and ask them a question, and kind of you go into the audience to speak to them, and then suddenly it becomes interactive. One more, which is of course not possible in WIROC, is to link the lecture to a post-lecture practical exercise. So I'm telling you about the, what are the different grades of tumor, and I'm going to, at the end of this talk, you're all going to be given a questionnaire and you have to answer. And instantly, it gives a feeling that it's an exam here. I need to know what he's saying because I'm going to answer it later. So that's something that you can use in a classroom type of a discussion, and of course maintain clinical relevance. So to maintain, of course, what I didn't mention, which I'm going to mention later, is the modulation, the hand movements, the body flow, which also keeps the audience engaged. If I'm talking monotone like many people do, and there is no voice modulation, and this is a voice or a tone that indulges people to sleep off, while it's a lullaby for the audience, because already dark, they've been tired in the whole day. So a modulation of voice, the way I'm doing it now, I'm just dropping the tone, I'm using my hands. So there's a real restriction on Zoom. In a real life scenario, you have the opportunity to actually display your body, and we tried at the back end of the talk. Asking a question back to the audience is easy. For example, if your paper is titled factors that help wound healing after hip surgery, and you said one factor and then the other factor, diabetes and blah blah blah, and then one of the factors is drain, and by then it's factor number 5. So people are now getting disconnected. You don't say, okay, drain, what does the drain do? You say, have you ever wondered if a is slower if the drain is not kept post-op? So when you ask a question, there's an intuition for the listener to answer that question. So at least he thinks about it. So if he connected with the 1, 2, 3, 4 happening, suddenly you give it a twist like this. On the other hand, if you can just put up a case, and so if you're talking of approaches for acetabulum fracture, you put up a case and say, okay, think about it, look at this X-ray and think about it. What approach would you take for this difficult acetabular fracture? And again, instantly they connect, right? So talking to the audience rather than talking by yourself, engaging in conversation. A conference like WIROC, you don't expect people to answer. But when you're posing a question, in their heads, they're wanting to answer it. And, that's what will engage their attention. Maintain clinical relevance, important. So again, if I have a very dull slide, which is about theoretical knowledge, like, classification of spondylolisthesis, if I just put it up and say, type 1 is dysplastic, type 2 is ischemic, which has 2A and 2B. By the time at 2C, I'll have lost a significant part of my audience. About it, think of yourself as the audience. You would not want to see this slide. So instead of that, if I had this and I said, hey, now think about what type of spondylolisthesis this is. Dysplastic, or is this ischemic, or is this traumatic? Because the information is there on the slide, and you don't have to parrot out what is written on the slide or what is there reading it. But if you engage them and ask them to guess or reply, that's one way to deal with boring stuff. The should be spectacular, because it has to be with take-home message, conclusions, or what we learned. So here's another secret that goes on. So when even the best speaker loses a fair part of the audience, right? Your aim of your talk was to give maximum information to maximum audience. The talk was not for people to know what lovely surgery you do. The aim was to transfer knowledge to the maximum number of people. And if you've lost 30% of, to regain their attention, you say, okay, finally, what are the take-home messages from this talk? Or what did we learn from this study? It is to re-engage a lot of people, because they say, Arey, I've missed the entire talk, but at least let me find out what the conclusion is. So don't in your head say that you slept, it's your, now I don't need to give you the conclusion, because then you're leaving one more person unlearned at the end of the day. So if you re-engage them, and maybe a few seconds, so they all get a chance to reattach themselves to your message, then you would be able to deliver your 1 or 2 punch messages. can't be 25 punch messages. And of course, the lousiest way to finish your talk is with a namaste and thank you. I'll tell you why, because the last slide seems to hang around on the podium for the longest time on the AV console. Because after your talk is done, someone says thank you, then sometimes it's Q. So if my talk was on osteoporotic spinal fractures, my last slide would look like this. The last slide actually has the entire gist of the talk or the conclusions made palatable, so that people are, those who had missed the talk, also quickly revising it. So the last slide is giving information or giving my punch take home message, and not just a thank you. Thank you can come in somewhere in the end. Thank you is not important. You don't have to say thank you. You don't even have to say it. But if you want to say it, slide it in somewhere. But do not put your last slide as a thank you. It just washes away the entire hard work that you did. Right? So let the last slide, which is going to get maximum footage, give information in a concise manner entire talk. Now, quickly moving on to PowerPoint. Most of y'all are champs at PowerPoint, but I come from an era when we used to have to make slides and put proposal. And when PowerPoint came, I remember this guy had come from Dundee, and he was the first guy to in one of the BOS meetings in Mud Island, and we were psyched with the capability of PowerPoint. Just imagine before PowerPoint, when you could just see slides, what a revolution PowerPoint would have been. So when it came, so many tricks in the bag, and there were so many options that you were like a headless guy, looking for a head, and you didn't know which head to choose. So there are lots and lots, but you have to again stay in the straight and narrow path as far as PowerPoint presentations go. So here's some basic fundas about color schemes. More talking in a dark hall, though nowadays WIROC also. So I'm sorry, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to say mostly you're nowadays talking in a lit hall, and in a lit hall, the presentation is on LED. So the hall is not dark as it used to be before. So a light background like the one you see right now, a clean white or a light blue background is normally good, but black and white can't be beat. And it especially for text slides is important. In a dark hall, you sometimes can have a dark background. Don't add too much. When you're putting in X-rays, it's great if you can project them on the dark background. You can see the difference. And if you don't want to do that, you can give them a dark outline, because they will project, because the contrast to your vision is much better on that. Totally avoid using these graduated backgrounds, because the text gets merged with the. This is a no-no. It's a no-brainer and a no-no. Dubara mat puchna. This kind of a background is not allowed. The background should be uncluttered, clean, and readable, because the background is something that actually projects the foreground, right? The font sizes, you can't have one slide with 3 different types of font sizes. At best, you can have 2 different font sizes. One is the heading and one is the bottom, and the heading can be as big as 60, but the standard size for the text is 24 to 36 and uniform. Totally avoid using all caps, because all caps can't be read by the eye as quickly as a sentence. And remember that on a screen, it's much easier to read the rounded texts like sans serif, Arial, Tahoma. Not so easy to read New Times Roman or Book Antiqua, which is good for print media. So this is important. You want to use these fonts through your, make sure that, again, you have just one standard font, because it's not impressive. You're not doing something spectacular by adding different fonts, right? So avoid more than 2 fonts. You can see that third sentence reads so ugly. When you look at it, you're not able to identify with it. Totally avoid all caps, no matter what. Avoid fancy word art, because it takes time to load sometimes. So, and it doesn't add to your valuation. So at best, you can underline or bold, but avoid fancy word art. It should be 6 words in one line and 6 lines in one slide at best. Less the better. You can speak more, like I'm speaking more. It is very empty and very easy. So the reader is only able to focus on what you're trying to put there. You can't put tons of information on one slide and it's the reader's mind. This is a very simple rule, but again, a lot of people miss it. So spell check. So I'm sure many of you all are just trying to figure out kya likha hai. That's what happens if you've got a nice slide, but there's one spelling error. The whole information on that slide goes away, because people are pointing to that error, trying to figure out. The focus goes away. You lose your there. So just rigorously go through your slides and make sure there are no spelling mistakes. Avoid sentences, avoid paragraphs, make bullet points which are light and easily palatable. Don't write tons and tons of stuff. You can speak tons and tons of stuff, but don't write it. What about clip art and drawing tools? It's good to use clip art, and it's good to use the small easy pointers like grayscale X-ray. You can have a nice red line or arrow, but you can't have these kind of disturbing clip arts because they actually hide what you're trying to show. Instead of that, if there was an arrow there, it would be much easier, right? So not to clutter with clip art, and totally avoid these non-specific images in your, like some of us like to keep images of some or some Himalayan landscape, and that's totally disturbing, irrelevant, not needed. I'm sure when this slide was projected, a ton of you were looking at the guy, whether he's bald or what's going on there. It was a disturbing photo. Just because it's a funny photo, it does not really earn its place on my slides. So please do not put relevant clip arts and pictures. Animation has to be, again, in a straight and narrow path. You can't have flashes coming up or dancing words, etc. It has to be a wipe down, or even better, wipe from wipe right. So wipe from the left to the right as the eye reads. We are trained to read from the left to the right. So text on the left, image on the right, and animation, if you want to make it, either just appears at one go, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a good idea to use animation because it can interest of the reader. If you put 4 points and put all of them together, you may be talking about the first, but the readers are quickly going through the lower ones. That's the human tendency. So it's a good idea to those 4 points if they're important, but the animation should be either a wipe right or just an appear. And if there is any pictures, they have to be on the right, and text has to be on the. This is again a dubara mat puchna rule. Like here, there is no no confusion and no discussion. You save the presentation as a PPS file. This sometimes gets difficult for us to do because when you open it, it straight away opens on the first slide as a PowerPoint show. The advantage is that you don't spend time opening on the slide deck. People suddenly see 100 slides and they already switch off. You straight away slide with your. It's very often, when the slide deck presents itself, I'm looking at how many slides are there, how long is he going to take. But in a PPS like PowerPoint show, it straight away starts with a show. Also, they can't tamper with it because it's non-editable. The 2 advantages. So it's a good idea to save it as a PPS. And then finally, the most important, according to me, is stage etiquette. And stage etiquette is where, we've not soft skills in our education, and that's where things go wrong. So I think the first rule, and I'm going to really eagerly see how many of you all are able to execute this, because your presentations may be fully ready, and I will not, or no one will feel bad if you couldn't apply a lot of these rules. So you have a week more to, tweak your presentations to the rules that I gave you, and you'll have a video recording of this, or I can personally, help you. But stage etiquette is something that you can change on the fly. Most importantly, we see a lot of our speakers hiding behind the podium or the lectern, and only their voice is heard actually because the mic covers their face. And that's like bad news, because there are multiple dimensions to a human body. Voice is just one. Presenting the body and using animations is number 2 and number 3. And it's important that you do that to capture maximum attention. Make it a 3D or a 4D presentation rather than a single dimensional presentation. And, there's a huge difference in the way the audience accepts what you say when you're talking from behind a mic versus there and emoting and, showing showing your commitment towards that lecture. So use your body language. And I really want to see, most places have a collar mic. It's okay for you to, ask for a collar mic and go out. And that's the last line on this thing, saying alter AV props as needed. So beforehand, if you look, I need a laser pointer because I need a collar mic, it will be made available to you because you're the lecturer. Remember to dress smart, because it's not okay to dress. मैं तो बिंदास है, मैं तो बहुत ऐसा talks दिया है, or I'm very senior here, because you're on stage and there are like 500 people listening to you. You have to look special. So whatever you like, dress smart and don't try to downplay your clothes. It need not be a jacket and a suit, but it should be a presentable, smart casual or a smart formal. Make sure when you reach the venue, you look around and find out what is the front back button. Am I getting a this kind of a keyboard, or am I getting a for my forward backward? Where's the mic going to be? So when you go there, what happens when you, when your name gets called out and from the audience, you get on the stage and you turn around and look at the audience staring at you, it's very unnerving sometimes. And at that time, tata papa happens, means you don't know what's where. So do this homework beforehand, it becomes easy for you. Also the timer, you want to know where the timer is kept, because the most critical part of WIROC is the timing, and you can't go. And you also want to know where the lectern is going to be, how people are seated, so you know how to maneuver yourself to get maximum draw. And all this should be done hand, like when there's nothing happening on stage, go back and do the homework. Speak slowly. So as Indians, we speak far, far faster than a natural English speaking community. And it pays to speak slightly slower than what you're used to. Even I'm speaking very fast here. We're going to, the whole thing in 30 minutes, about 20 minutes. But speaking slowly always helps. Rehearse difficult words, especially names, McCorney. So while saying that name, you suddenly slip up, sounds odd. So what are the difficult names or even sometimes words, you rehearse them and make sure and Google, etc. has it. Sometimes I don't know what the pronunciation of one is who I'm quoting. So I go to Google and it tells me how to pronounce it and I learn that. Like primum non nocere, everyone says that, first do no harm. They pronounce it in some really weird way. So if you went to Google, it would tell you it's not non nocere, it's non nocere, right? So these phrases you want to know. Modulate your, spoke about that some time back, no monotone. And it's again not hard to make those nice swings in the voice. And emote. Emote means in your eyes, in your face, in your hands, there's sincerity of wanting to teach, because then the audience wants to learn. They don't want to learn when you're just sitting there in an egoistic manner and saying, "Main bol raha hai, sunna hai to sun." Not that way. I'm dying for you to understand and take home all my messages, and that should come across on my face. Keep your presentation slightly shorter than normal, because again, here the dichotomy. Some of us are fast speakers. We speak faster when we are on stage, when we are nervous, and some of us tend to, slow down. So what, generally it's a good idea to rehearse your time and keep your presentation slightly shorter. And remember that there's no topic on earth that Dr. Agashe or Dr. Rajshekharan will not be able to cover in 4 minutes. No topic, right? So don't say that itna bada topic mein 4 minutes diye. No, that's not okay. You have to decide what you want to say about that topic in 4 minutes and finish it in 4 minutes, right? Maintain a good flow. So rehearse your introduction. When you go out like I said, when you go suddenly behind the podium, very nervous by the eyes staring at you, and your first slide has to be mugged up. What you're going to say has to be, and I still do it. I still sit over there and I know what I'm going to just go there and vomit it out while I get my bearings. So rehearse and mug up your first slide, and then it'll go in a flow. Do not read slides because the audience is reading it. Talk about your slide than reading what is there. You don't, if it's there and you're reading, you're just, losing time. Anticipate your next slide so you maintain the flow, and that comes by rehearsal. Because saying something and that comes up on the next slide, then it's like a no game, right? Emphasize on the correct points and what you want to really draw people. And of course, this is important. Prepare what to say if the start is delayed. And it's not uncommon for AV fluctuations. And of course, with, Anand Peter there, that never, but you can never have Anand Peter all the time. So invariably you go up and something doesn't come up, and then you're just standing there while the AV guy is trying to run around, and that would have given you 20, 30, 40 extra seconds to interact with the audience. Already you have only 6 minutes. So in your mind, you should have a plan B, that in case my slide doesn't show, can I get into? So it could be, something about your topic or some interesting case about your topic or some interaction, rather than just standing there like a statue, because the minute that happens, go away for coffee. So, to keep the audience engaged. Eye contact, this is the hard one, because, if you look at the people who are looking at you, you get nervous. And if you don't look at them, nervous. So one of the easy things is to look beyond the last row. That's what I do. So there's a huge pile of audience. You look beyond the last row, makes everyone think you're looking at them, but actually you're looking at no one. And remember not to just focus at one place and keep talking. You have to keep moving your head around so you don't miss a audience. Invariably you're on the right side of the stage and you miss that left corner. And, if you miss them in the body language, if I'm not looking at you and talking, you slowly lose attention. So you want to always stay engaged. So everyone is on their toes while you're talking and everyone feels that bit of importance. However, while doing that, it's the microphone. Don't do that. You have to move centrifugally around the microscope, so you don't suddenly, your voice doesn't drop down. So this is a technique. Very important to maintain humility, and many of you all are paper presenters, so you all are humble to begin with because you all are still junior. But this is important for the seniors, and um, it's good to show some problems, so people, complications, so people kind of put you down as or think about you as one of them, us and them, and this guy is just trying to do fafa baji. That shouldn't come across. Be convinced about your message. Your talk should have that character rather than just information thrown at. It's not a textbook, it's a talk, and there's a big difference in the two. The talk is actually like I said, it's a 4D experience which you're transmitting a body language, vibes, you may call it, energy, which is actually contributing to the people understanding what you're saying. So it should not turn out a book, and in the end make people feel that this was a specially made talk for them. So this talk, like I said, is done a few several rounds before, but yet every time I present it, I would make sure that I made tweaks that are relevant to the audience. For example, here WIROC, because no talk is made coincidentally. It's most good talks are a result of very, very hard work by senior speakers. So that's my game, and you know that I'm available at any time for any queries. You can even share your talk with me, and I'll help you trim it. I have the time, and we'll figure out how to do that. But thank you so much, Ashok and Vishal and everyone at WIROC, because it was a great opportunity to interact with the future, BOS rock stars. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir. There are some changes basically which I would like to propose, some technicalities which I would like to show them. So if there are any questions before we move on to my presentation, if there are any questions, you are open to ask them.
Yeah. Can I ask? This is Dipit here.
Yes, Dipit, go ahead.
So first of all, we are taking PowerPoint and Keynote both, right?
Yes, that is coming in my presentation, how we are going to take. Okay. But we are taking both. It has to be the latest version, preferably.
Right. And we have pointers as well.
We will not
laser pointer.
We would not prefer pointers. That also is covered in my presentation. It will be like prefer to use a mouse or a trackpad, whatever is available on the podium. We would not prefer pointer, because then with the pointer you are looking at like this and the audience is there.
So then we cannot move about, right? Using the mouse pad.
Yes, you can move about now using the mouse.
Okay.
So are you conducting a panel discussion? Are you conducting a panel discussion?
Also, yeah.
So during a panel discussion, you can use a panel. You can use that green thing, whatever the LED light, the light we will give you.
Okay, so
that light will be available.
Okay, so that light will be there only for
panel. Only for panel discussion. It will be available all the time, but we don't prefer you to use it, because supposing if you are just taking one talk, then you are doing like this.
So Anand can tell us about that.
Anand here, Dr. Deepak.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So which hall are you going to do this in?
It will be Hall B and Hall A.
Okay. You will have something that's called a highlighter.
Yeah.
So that acts as both a cursor, which you can point around from anywhere, and you can also change your slides with that.
So it will be a remote thing, right?
It will be like a pen in your hand.
Yes, it's in
your remote control in your hand, small remote.
So you can move about with the remote control.
Yes,
then.
It is Logitech highlighter. That is what, right?
Absolutely right, Dr. Neeraj.
Okay.
Right.
But that will not be available in all halls.
Maybe not. So, at least it will be available in A and B, definitely.
A and B. Okay. And the second thing, so in Keynote, how do you save it as, for example, in PowerPoint, you're saving PPS. Is there a analogous thing?
No, there is no analog. You just save it as KEY.
So not a direct play cannot be saved like that, as you do in PowerPoint, right? Okay. Now video will be autoplay.
Let me be very frank. I would prefer if everybody does and does not do it as a PPS. Dr. Nene was just telling about it, because sometimes if it doesn't open, you're in real trouble.
Okay.
So preferably .ppt. I think I'm sorry.
So let me finish my presentation. most of the questions which he's asking, I'm answering in my presentation.
Neeraj just talk. It will come
Okay.
up.
Sure.
So these are some instructions which were prepared by Dr. Thakur. Can you see?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, so
make it
these
full
were,
screen.
yeah. Yes, so these were some presentation instructions which were Dr. Thakur. We will be sharing this as a PDF to all of you, but I'll just go through it one by one. So Windows or a Mac, we would prefer this 2013 or later, Keynote version 9 or higher. Older Keynote format is not recommended, may or may not work. Definitely the PPT will be acceptable. The PPTX format or the PPTSX format will be acceptable. As Dr. Peter Anand said that we need this format, PPTX. Save it as PPT and do not make your presentation in a older than 2013. Minimum it should be, your PowerPoint should be 2013. The Office 365 is always the latest. Best. So how to make your slides in 16:9 ratio? If you are using the latest Office 365, then it is default 9. But if you're using an older version, then you'll have to do some effort. And this is how you do it. This, you open this and there is an option called slide side and you use the wide screen here. Can you see it? Can you make out? Anybody can answer.
Yes.
Okay. And if you want to do in Keynote, then you go here, Keynote, and there is an option called standard 4:3 and wide screen 16:9. This is how you just change in Keynote. To WIROC 2017. But Dr. Nene said avoid white background. So specifically, if you're presenting in the big hall where there is a really big LED, you should avoid white background slides. But in the smaller halls, that is hall B, C, and any other hall, except for hall A and D, you can use white background. But hall A and D specifically, you avoid white background because the LED is really very big and the people who are sitting very near will get too much brightness. So you can try this one. You can try this one. You can try this one. You can experiment. Avoid white background and dark font. It dazzle hurts the eyes. That is specifically for all A and D only. Other halls you can use whatever colors you want, or you can use the white one. Use large fonts. As you can see, this is 18 size. This is 24 size. This is 44 size. But as Dr. Naine said, just use 2 fonts per slide than that. The larger the better. And use animated arrows instead of using every time and trying to point out something. You can just prepare the arrows like this by animation beforehand. So it gives a easier picture. And you don't have to worry about if animation will work properly or not, or will you have the mouse, will you have the trackpad. If you prepare it well, then this is what you can do. Something like this. And something like this. Of course, you need to hide the identity of the patient. See to it that all your X-rays and MRIs, you are hiding the identity. If you see in the top one, there is Dr. AJ Thakur written, and here the name is gone. So hide the identity. It is done by simple, just put a black shape over it, anything, but just hide the identity of the patient. It's very, very important. Videos. So the Murphy's Law, if anything is likely to go wrong, it will be. And you convert your video file to an MP4 format. And if you want a free converter, this is a smart converter, which is a very easy. It is available for Windows and Mac both. There are many other converters which you can convert, but see to it that it's not MPEG-4, but it is MP4. Peter, is there any other format which will work, or MP4 is the ideal one for both Windows and Mac?
So .mp4 is the best. It does compress your video very badly, so the clarity is not lost. .mp4 is the best.
Yes. So preferably when you're using a video, try to run it on automatically. This is how you do it. You go in if you put in insert the video, then there is an option called playback and it is on automatically. So you huddle for it, then click on it, whether it is playing or not. It will automatically play. As soon as you change the slide, it will just automatically play. So there is no much effort on your side and you concentrate on how you are talking and how you are presenting. Same way in the Keynote also, there is an option in the animate. After you insert the video, you go in something called which is rare, and then there is a build order and run after transition or after previous is what you have to select. So it will just play on its own. it is preferable to do that. Of course, if there are multiple movies, you can do it one after the other also. But it is definitely, this is preferable for a smoother presentation of yours so that you can rehearse also better. Of course, nowadays, all the latest PowerPoints and the keynotes, you can, of course, embed the video which auto embedded, but always carry extra copy of the video file in the pen drive. That is your lifeline at WIROC Global. So sorry for this. Your safe house is your preview room. Visit early. At least the presentation, if you are on a Friday afternoon, you have to put it in the morning. If you are on Friday, you can even put it on Thursday night. Anand, Peter, when are we going to get the preview room on Thursday?
Sir, we are now, the whole team is there from 24th itself.
So Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon, can I tell them to present, or Thursday evening the preview will be on? What time?
See, the preview room will be on from Thursday, let's say evening 6 o'clock.
Okay. So Thursday evening 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, I will tell them to put it. Or
Yes.
come early morning at 7:30.
We are going to be open at 7
a.m. So anytime after 7 a.m. on Friday morning, or if you're coming on Thursday, then for your Friday presentation, definitely on Thursday. Yes.
6 be perfect.
6 to 9 p.m. And all other days, preferably do it at least 4 hours before. So if you're having a presentation on Saturday morning, put it on Friday evening itself. If you're having a presentation on Saturday afternoon, put it on Saturday morning itself. Try to do even one day before we can take it. If you have a presentation on Sunday, you are fully ready, put it on Friday itself. It's okay to put it earlier. So before your presentation, at least half an hour, be on the front bench. There will be some reservation for the speakers, for the presenters on the left side podium. For you, you can be on the front row, preferably. If the front row is full, then on the second row at least. And at least 30 minutes before your session starts. Not before but before your session starts. For example, if your session is going to start at 2 p.m., see to it that you're finished with your lunch by 1:30 and you come and sit at 1:30, even if it's an empty hall. It is always before. So we wish you all the best for your presentation from audiovisual team at WIROC Global. Now, if there are any more questions, take them.
Yeah, I think I missed one slide. So you said all halls have 16:9 format, or
Yes.
only A and B?
Yes, all halls have 16:9. Yes.
Even the smaller meeting rooms,
Meeting rooms are definitely, because there are only TVs.
Okay, great. Thanks.
Somebody raised his hand. Can you check, Ashok, who was that?
Pradeep Chaudhary has raised it.
Yes, Dr.
It was me. It was an excellent talk by Dr. Nene. I just really enjoyed it. I presented so many talks, but still I learned so many things today. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, any other questions, Ashok? You want to put any comments or any changes? So, if there are no questions,
one more thing. I have one more question. So
Yes.
the time limit for 7 minutes plus 3 minutes for question answer, mostly. So at 7 minutes time point, is it going to be muted?
muted. If you are a paper presenter or a masala wala presenter, your slide will be off. It will be off completely. Means it will just go blank. We'll just put
Not the others.
speakers may not be speakers. That depends on the chairperson. There will of course be 1 minute warning that within 1 minute you are going to finish it off. And if you are, that will depend on the chairperson. But if you're running late, that also can be done. If the chairperson says you have to put it off, you have to put it off. Or they may give you a few seconds to just conclude. But preferably try to be on time. We run a very tight schedule on WIROC. The timetable is super compact. Peter, we cannot hear you. Your voice is breaking.
I think your internet connection is not stable, Peter.
Me better?
Yeah, a little better.
Still not.
Yes, sir. I'm actually traveling.
Okay, Peter, see, I already made it clear. Yeah. So what we can do is that for all the paper presenters,
Very clear, sir, that we are going to blank out at the end of allotted time.
Yes. So as Peter is saying, we are going to blank out at the end of allotted time.
Everything, all talks, anything, irrespective,
Yes.
whichever session.
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Okay.
irrespective.
Nice.
Okay, so I have a small
You get a
presentation.
buzzer,
I can take it ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Anand.
Take over.
Okay.
One more question. Can I ask one?
Yes,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes.
See, if the thing goes blank out after 7 minutes, as the speaker finishes, will the speaker be seeing his presentation on the, or it's going to be blacked out on his laptop also on the podium?
On the laptop only is where the blackout is going to happen.
No. What is laptop में दिखेगा क्या? उधर बंद हो जाएगा ना?
Screen में
Laptop will go
दिखेगा.
blank. Laptop
And the
will
screen,
go blank.
and what about the screen will also go blank along with it?
What goes from the laptop to the screen? Once the laptop is blank, the screen becomes blank.
Achha, that's the way it is. Okay, no worries. No, then is as a chairperson, if I have to ask and just conclude there,
If I
so
blank
they
it
may
out,
not be able to see the
no.
conclusion also in front of them.
Exactly. So we do not want to blank out on only the screen. You may not be looking at the screen. So we blank out the laptop.
Okay. Right. Okay.
Yes, Dr. Shyam.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think most of the points Dr. Nene and Neeraj has already made. I'll make few points on my experience from scientific abstracts and various formats that are going to be presented. So free papers, like Abhay sir said, and everybody is discussing, time is paramount. You have to time your presentations beforehand. You have to time it so that it ends at 4 minutes 30 seconds, because you are going to invariably overshoot at some points. Your rehearsal will not be optimal. You'll go on speaking certain things, just reading the slides. So keep your rehearsal to 4 minutes 30 seconds and prepare few questions and answers with your friends. What not to do is, don't waste your time on writing the introduction of a research paper. Okay, most of the time what I see in conferences, people try to write introduction of the subject. If you're presenting a paper on CTEV, they start with CTEV was described by and this year and that year. Words are at premium when you're standing on the podium. Okay, so use your words wisely. Only limited amount of words and limited amount of time you have to convey the idea that you want your reader to see. Okay, so give a background, just one slide, why this research is important. Don't really talk about the subject, about deformities in CTV, about things like that. Come to the point. Okay, second important thing that I see is about data. So people just put on demographic data, male, female, gender, side. Those things are not useful. Those things don't matter. Okay, what matters, you put up those slides. Put up numbers only for things that you feel the audience will take home. Okay, you're not here to woo the audience with arithmetic or statistics. You want them to take away clinical message. Nobody can just look at a slide full of tables and numbers and understand it immediately in those 15-20 seconds that you are on those slides. Make it simple. Okay, if you're putting up a table, make a bar across, write what inference you want them to take from the table. Okay, the table is in background, they don't have to read the table, you give the inference of the table. So don't waste your time in cramping the data. Multiple complicated tables are really no at all. Okay, present your research as simple as possible, so that people who are there in the audience can immediately grasp it. It has to be simple. You have to rehearse out loud. This applies not only for free papers but all kinds of presentations. You have to rehearse, you have to hear yourself. You can have your friends hear yourself. Specifically, if I give an example, at Sancheti, we have rehearsals for WIROC papers 3 times now and everybody presents in the morning in front of a whole full house of consultants and residents. So that is how you need to rehearse, make arrangements for your rehearsal. This is very, very important. Video presentations are 6 minutes with 5-minute discussion. You have to come back to important message. That's all. Video presentations are very specific. You are looking at a surgical technique and you are describing it in detail. What you can do is recollect your process. So most of the videos are a learning process. I mean, they are a culmination of learning process over a period of time. So recollect your process. You can talk to the audience about how you discovered these steps or how you made those adjustments. And always think about the audience. I put this here in video presentation, but you have to think about the audience all the time, whenever you are on the podium, whenever you are speaking on Zoom or anywhere else. It is a balance between what you want to say and what they are interested, and that is the overlapping portion is where the relevance lies. Relevance is the impact of your presentation. So if you can balance it well, both the things, the impact of your presentation will be lasting. Interesting cases, you have 4 minutes and 1 minute of discussion. Very short time, you need to focus. So cases are like stories for us. So I've been attending a lot of webinars and people are putting up cases, and people put up in such details that it becomes a long story. I know there are important points to learn from each step, but here for WIROC, we have 4 minutes and 1 minute. Keep it very focused, keep it short, come to the point immediately. Maybe I will say start with the reverse. Put up the case title, below it, write what you learned from the case. Okay, on the first slide itself, the title, what I learned from this case, put your inference. Then go on telling in the other slides how you learned those things. Okay, that makes it really interesting. So that even the audience knows what he is going to come to. Again, like I said, think about the audience. Masala Wala best papers are the most coveted session in WIROC. We have 10 minutes and 5 minutes. Time is enough to give a very high impact for your audience. Okay, so you have to utilize your time very, very wisely. What I've seen over the years among Masala Wala papers is there is a lot of complex stuff being put up. Again, like I said, you have to be clear. You have to be focused on what you are saying. Be clear. Clarity is one of the things that I personally find lacking in most of the scientific presentation. Be clear what you're saying. Okay. And the next point, which I like to share many times, your presentation should be like a logical story. The tortoise and the hare is a logical story. You start at one point and it moves logically and rationally and ends at a proper moral or rational end. Okay. So you have to tell the story in such a way that it has to be clear to the audience, it has to be logical, and it has to end in rational way. Putting up a lot of statistics, putting up a lot of graphs and figures, it makes impact, but I will like to see or hear a paper which is simple. It gives data, of course. It doesn't mean that you don't give data at all. But a simple, logical, rational paper which is much more acceptable for me and much more applicable to me in my clinical practice. So I think that's all. The Masala Wala thing also applies to VSF and YSF, where there are longer period of time where you can detail your things. But again, it has to be clear, it has to be simple, and it has to lead to a logical end. So that ends my presentation. Any questions we can take? I think Neeraj and Anand are still here.
Hi, I would just like to ask, will we get the presenter's view while presenting, or it will be like, how is it visible to the audience?
Oh, I somehow feel that you're reading my mind. I was just about to come up with that. This is Anand here.
Yes.
So all the halls will have the option of presenter's view. But be very, very specific at the preview room. Tell them, because they will mark and inform the halls that this presentation has to have a presenter's view.
Okay. And the
Visible.
timer location will be visible to
So there is a laptop placed at the podium.
Okay.
The timer is going to be a physical timer, which most of the people seen our setup know. It's a two-sided timer, one towards the chairpersons and one towards you. It is nice and bold. Corner of your eye, keep looking at it.
Okay.
Keep looking at it. That's primary. You get a buzzer 1 minute before end of whatever be your timing. If it's 4, you get a buzzer at 3, and at the second buzzer, it goes blank. And as Dr. Neeraj and all of them put it up, being LED walls, preferably try not to use white as your background for the slide, because it hits the eye. Very, very crucial point that Dr. Nene put up was, do not have your pictures on white background. It makes it look dull. Always have some dark shade and then have the picture on it. I mean, this is just, I'm just the audiovisual guy, but this is what I have observed.
Tip where I would like to give, so many people nowadays have taken in this format. Let me remove a virtual background.
Also, Dr. Vikas Agase is an audience. So you can on your video, like your
take a video like this. Yeah. So when you take a video like this, you get normally a video like this. Now, if you're using a blue or an ordinary background, in that it will look odd. So what you can do is that for that slide where you're putting a vertical video, just put a black background. So your video will look much better. It will stand out much better. Or you can put multiple videos with a black background. It will even look better. If you're taking a video like this by mistake. If you have taken a video like this, you can always rotate it, but there's black bands on the side. So when you get the black bands, again, a background should be black. Even whatever your presentation is on a white background, purple background, blue background, you put the video, try to put the black background so video looks very nice. Yes.
Yeah, Agache sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. I mean,
good evening all. It's always, am I muted? No.
No.
It's always a pleasure to listen to Abhay. Fantastic talk. And all Ashok, Neeraj and Anand have given very useful tips. One point I would like to make. When you are presenting, it's quite likely that it is not your own work. It is a work done by your boss. Now, when you are presenting and showing cases, it's quite likely that the cases were done before you joined. And therefore, you often don't know a lot about those cases. So when the question is asked, it is quite likely that you will fumble because you will not know exactly what was done. So it is better to discuss all these cases first, not just 3 or 4 slides that you would be presenting, but go through the entire case history of that case so you're able to answer better. It makes a very poor impression if you are not able to answer properly, and then the person who asks question points to your boss and say, I would like you to answer this. That makes a very, very poor impression. That's just one point I would like to make. But I think nothing else is covered.
Right.
And great initiative. Great initiative, Ashok and Neeraj.
Thank you, sir.
So, Agasi, sir, let me tell you, this is Anand here.
Yeah.
This time the WIROC is under audiovisual because of, we have the tech bosses who are going to be my bosses.
Yes, you are right.
Neeraj and Dr. Ashok,
yes.
More.
No, but nobody can match you, Anand. No problem.
Agree. Absolutely agree. So anyways, I just wanted to ask you one question about common errors that you have seen over the years from WIROC presenters. You have attended WIROC for the longest time, I think. So what are the few, maybe 2 or 3 common errors that the presenters make? We have detailed them, but I think you can tell us much better.
One of the commonest is reading out from your slide. Second is copy pasting paragraph by paragraph. This is very common. So as Abhay has emphasized, just about, in fact, I'll go and say that 5 lines maximum and 3 or 4 or 5 words in per line. You have to rehearse, you have to keep talking about those things, but don't write or copy paragraphs. That is something, and very important, last but not the least, your last slide should not be thank you. It should be gist of whatever you have said. People take home your last slide and it should not be thank you. These are the commonest errors that I have noted.
So, those are very, very important tips again. I think we have covered most of the technical as well as presentation aspects. And I'd like to wish all the presenters a very, very best of luck. And we look forward to amazing presentations from all of you. Yeah, Dr. Abe, any last comments? Great. Okay, I think then.
I think we'll have to also mention this to everybody that under no circumstances will own laptops be allowed.
Yes.
Give it as a privilege.
Just one last question, Ashok, can I ask?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
My point is that since I am presenting from Indore only, so any guideline for that, any specific guideline you want to share with us?
I will give. Ashok, let me give.
Go ahead.
See to it, Zoom app is installed on your laptop. It should be your own laptop where you have prepared the presentation. It should not be some new laptop which you're sitting for the first. And the Zoom app should be updated. If it is a Mac, see to it that you have done a trial run on Zoom. You can just have your own Zoom meeting and do a trial run if your screen sharing is allowed. The Mac has some security settings. So first time when you run it, it gives you trouble. It also gives you trouble when you have updated the software. Most important, what I have seen, the glitches happen using somebody else's laptop because the laptop was not working or Zoom was not working or something like that. And of course, your internet should be great and your lighting should be good. Like now your light is coming from behind, but light should be coming from the front. Like me, my light is coming from the front. And like Dr. Agashe, light is coming from the front. So more light, so your face instead of your face should be dark. And just a minute. And try to check your internet speed into this website. It should be at least 10 Mbps. Let me open the website and show it to you. So this is a very simple website called fast.com. Just see your internet speed here and it should be minimum 10 Mbps.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Actually, I think we have trial sessions for all the national outreach. So your trial session will be made available for you to try also. Okay, then. I think.
Bye-bye. All the best to all this present. All the best.
All the best. Yes.
See you on Friday morning.
See you on Friday morning. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone.